The Silent Hunter. The Discovery. Dr. Sarah Chen floated through the observation deck of Research Station Horizon 7, watching the stars through the massive transparent aluminum windows. The station drifted silently in the void between solar systems, conducting long-range scans of unexplored space. Sarah had been the station commander for 3 years now, leading a team of 12 researchers in humanity's most ambitious deep space exploration project. The station's artificial intelligence, ARIA, spoke through the communication system with her pleasant synthesized voice. Dr. Chen, we're receiving unusual energy signatures from Sector Delta 9. The patterns don't match any known stellar phenomena. Sarah pushed herself toward the main control room, using the handholds along the walls. The station rotated slowly to provide artificial gravity in the living quarters, but the research sections remained in zero gravity for easier equipment handling. Captain Jake Morrison was already at the scanning station when she arrived, his weathered face showing concern. "What do you make of this, Sarah?" Jake asked, gesturing toward the display screen. The former military officer had joined the research mission as security chief, though they had never expected to need security in the empty depths of space. Sarah studied the energy readings. The patterns were unlike anything in their databases. The energy signatures pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and they seemed to be moving through space in a deliberate pattern rather than drifting randomly. "ARIA, how far are these signatures from our position?" Sarah asked. "Approximately 4 light hours, Dr. Chen. However, I should note that the energy patterns appear to be approaching our general location, though not directly toward us." Engineer Ben Torres looked up from his maintenance console, where he had been running routine diagnostics. "Could be some kind of natural phenomenon we haven't cataloged yet. Maybe energized gas clouds or electromagnetic storms." Sarah wasn't convinced. The patterns were too regular, too purposeful. "ARIA, scan for any other vessels or installations in that sector. Are we the only ones out here?" "Negative, Dr. Chen. I detect 3 other human vessels within scanning range. The mining ship Iron Prospector, the long-range explorer Deep Vision, and the transport vessel New Horizon. All are operating normally according to their last transmitted status reports." Jake frowned as he studied the tactical display. "Those ships are all between us, and whatever's producing those energy signatures. If this thing is hostile—" "We don't know that it's hostile," Sarah interrupted, though her scientific curiosity was beginning to mix with unease. "But we should maintain communication with those vessels and monitor the situation closely." The first signs. Over the next 6 hours, the energy signatures continued their steady approach. Sarah and her team monitored the phenomenon constantly, taking detailed measurements and trying to understand what they were dealing with. The patterns remained consistent, pulsing like a massive heartbeat in the darkness of space. Aria's voice cut through the quiet tension of the control room. "Dr. Chen, I'm losing communication with the mining vessel Iron Prospector. Their last transmission was routine maintenance report 15 minutes ago." Jake immediately moved to the communication station. "Iron Prospector, this is Horizon 7. Please respond." He waited for a response, then tried again with increasing urgency. "Iron Prospector, acknowledge immediately." Only static answered their calls. Sarah felt ice forming in her stomach. Space was vast and communication failures were not uncommon, but the timing was troubling. "ARIA, what's the status of the energy signatures?" Sarah asked. "The patterns have intensified, Dr. Chen. The energy readings are now 12% stronger than when we first detected them. Additionally, I'm detecting faint debris in the location where Iron Prospector was last positioned." Ben Torres ran a hand through his hair nervously. "Debris? What kind of debris?" "Metallic fragments consistent with human ship construction, but the energy signatures of the metal are unusual. The atomic structure appears to have been altered." Sarah's scientific training warred with growing alarm. Whatever had happened to Iron Prospector, it wasn't a normal accident. "Keep trying to raise the other ships, and prepare our own engines for emergency acceleration." Jake was already moving toward the weapons locker. Horizon 7 was a research station, not a warship, but they carried basic defensive systems and small arms for protection against pirates or equipment failures. Sarah, I think we need to consider the possibility that we're dealing with something actively hostile. Before Sarah could respond, Aria's voice took on an urgent tone. Dr. Chen, I'm detecting a massive energy surge from the location of deep vision. The ship appears to be disappearing. Disappearing. Sarah rushed to the sensor station. What do you mean disappearing? The display showed the energy signature of deep vision growing fainter by the second. It wasn't moving away or exploding. The ship's energy signature was simply fading, as if it was being drained of power from the inside out. Deep vision, respond immediately. Jake shouted into the communication system. This is an emergency. A weak voice came through the speakers, filled with terror. Horizon 7. Something's wrong. Our power systems are failing, but there's no damage. The crew, they're falling unconscious. I can barely. Help us. The transmission cut off abruptly. On the sensors, Deep Vision's energy signature disappeared completely. The hunter revealed. Sarah stared at the readings in horrified fascination. 2 ships had vanished in less than an hour, both in the path of the mysterious energy signatures. Whatever they were dealing with, it was systematically eliminating every human presence in its path. ARIA. Immediate full power to engines. Plot a course away from those energy signatures. Maximum acceleration. Dr. Chen, I must advise that our maximum acceleration will not be sufficient to escape the approaching phenomenon. Based on current movement patterns, the energy signatures will intercept our position in approximately 4 hours. Jake was checking the station's small arsenal of weapons. What about New Horizon? Are they still transmitting? Yes, Captain Morrison. New Horizon is maintaining normal operations, but they are directly between us and the energy source. Based on the pattern, they will encounter the phenomenon in approximately 2 hours. Sarah made a decision that went against every instinct she had as a scientist, but aligned with her responsibility as a commander. Send an emergency transmission to New Horizon. Tell them to change course immediately and flee the area. Then send the same message to Earth Command. Full priority, all channels. Ben Torres was frantically working at his console, trying to squeeze more power from their engines. Sarah, I'm reading something new. The energy signatures, they're not random. There's a structure to them, almost like they're thinking. What do you mean? Sarah asked, though she was beginning to suspect she knew. The patterns are too complex for natural phenomena. They're responding to the presence of our ships. When Iron Prospector moved to investigate an asteroid, the energy signatures shifted to intercept. When Deep Vision tried to change course, the patterns adjusted. This thing is hunting us. The realization hit Sarah like a physical blow. They weren't dealing with a natural phenomenon or even a simple alien predator. They were facing something intelligent, something that hunted other forms of life with calculated precision. Aria's voice confirmed their worst fears. I'm receiving a distress call from New Horizon. The vessel reports complete power failure and crew members losing consciousness. Transmission quality is deteriorating rapidly. Sarah listened to the desperate voice of New Horizon's captain as his ship died around him. The pattern was consistent. The creature, whatever it was, didn't destroy ships with weapons. It drained them of life itself, leaving empty hulks drifting in space. Dr. Chen, Aria continued, I'm detecting additional energy signatures approaching from multiple directions. The initial phenomenon appears to have been a scout. We are now facing the hunting pack. Jake cursed under his breath as he checked their pathetic defensive capabilities. Sarah, we need to do something. Running isn't going to work, and we sure as hell can't fight this thing with mining lasers and emergency flares. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. As a xenobiologist, she had studied theoretical alien life forms for years, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for predators that fed on life energy itself. Think, she told herself. Every predator has weaknesses. Every hunting strategy has counters. Show me the detailed analysis of the energy patterns. I want to see everything, every fluctuation, every variation in the signals. The display filled with complex wave patterns and energy signatures. Sarah studied them with growing understanding. The patterns weren't random, but they weren't perfectly controlled either. There were fluctuations, moments where the energy signatures weakened or became unstable. There, she said, pointing to a series of readings. Look at these variations. The energy levels drop when the creatures encounter resistance. They feed on life energy, but they need the victim to be passive, unresisting. Then Torres looked up from his engine controls. What are you thinking? Iron Prospector was a mining ship. Routine operations, crew probably relaxed. Deep Vision was an exploration vessel, scanning passively. New Horizon was a transport, following standard shipping lanes. All of them were in passive modes when attacked. Jake caught on immediately. You're saying these things prefer easy prey. More than that, Sarah said, her excitement growing despite their desperate situation. I think they require easy prey. Look at these energy fluctuations when they feed. The process requires the victim's life force to flow freely. If the victim resists, fights back, the process becomes unstable. Araya interrupted their discussion. Dr. Chen, the energy signatures are now 12 minutes from our position. I recommend immediate implementation of whatever defensive strategy you have developed. Sarah turned to her team, feeling the weight of command and the burden of species survival. They were probably the only humans who understood what was hunting humanity, and they might be the only ones who could develop a defense. Here's what we're going to do, she said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. We're not going to run, and we're not going to hide. We're going to fight back with everything that makes us human. The human response. Sarah's plan was desperate, but it was based on the one advantage humans had always possessed in the face of superior predators: the ability to adapt and fight when cornered. Ben, I need you to disconnect our life support systems from the main power grid. Switch everything to manual control. If these creatures feed by draining ship systems, we're going to make it as difficult as possible for them. That's going to be dangerous, Sarah, Ben warned. Manual life support in deep space is risky even under normal circumstances. Normal circumstances don't include being hunted by energy vampires, Jake pointed out grimly. What else do you need? Sarah was working frantically at her console, pulling up every piece of data they had collected about human biology and psychology. I need you to compile every recording of human emotional responses we have in the database. Music, literature, personal messages from home, anything that generates strong emotional reactions. May I ask the purpose of this compilation, Dr. Chen? We're going to use our humanity as a weapon, Sarah explained. These creatures feed on passive life energy, but human life energy isn't passive when we're angry, when we're fighting for survival, when we're protecting what we love. Jake understood immediately. He had seen it in combat, the way humans fought harder when they were defending something important. You want to make our life energy toxic to them. Exactly. Ben, how long until you have manual control established? 3 minutes, maybe 4. ARIA. Start broadcasting the emotional compilation on all speakers throughout the station. I want everyone to remember why we're out here, what we're fighting for, what we're going home to. The station filled with the sounds of human music, voices of loved ones, recordings of children laughing, couples saying goodbye before dangerous missions. Sarah felt her own emotional response intensify as she listened to the voice of her sister reading a bedtime story to her daughter back on Earth. Energy signatures now 3 minutes from contact, Araya reported. I'm detecting probe tendrils extending from the main mass. The feeding process appears to be beginning. Sarah could feel it now, a cold presence at the edge of her consciousness, something alien and hungry trying to touch her mind. But instead of the passive acceptance the creature expected, it encountered fierce resistance. Now, Sarah shouted. Everyone think about home. Think about the people you love. Think about why humanity doesn't give up. The station shuddered as the creature's feeding tendrils made contact with their hull. But instead of the easy drain of life energy it expected, the alien predator encountered something it had never faced before. Conscious, deliberate resistance backed by the full emotional power of human determination. Ben Torres thought about his wife and newborn son on Mars colony. Jake Morrison remembered his fallen comrades and his oath to protect the innocent. Sarah focused on every discovery that had advanced human knowledge, every breakthrough that had made life better for her species. The creature recoiled in what could only be described as pain. Its energy signature fluctuated wildly as it tried to process the toxic mixture of defiance and love it had encountered instead of passive life force. It's working. Ben shouted over the sound of stringing hull plates. The energy readings are becoming unstable. But Sarah knew they had only won the first round. Area. Emergency transmission to Earth. Maximum power. All frequencies. Tell them what we've learned. Tell them how to fight back. As Horizon 7 transmitted humanity's first weapon against the darkness, Sarah realized that this encounter would change everything. Humanity had found its enemy, but more importantly, it had found its strength. The hunt was about to become mutual. The Forge of Defiance. The warning reaches home. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the priority transmission from Horizon 7 with growing alarm. Dr. Sarah Chen's battered face filled the main screen as she delivered humanity's first intelligence report on their new enemy. Admiral, based on our encounter, these entities hunt by draining life energy from their victims. They prefer passive targets and seem to be disrupted by active emotional resistance. We've designated them as harvesters due to their feeding behavior. They're intelligent, they hunt in packs, and they're heading toward populated human space. Elena had served in the Defense Force for 23 years, rising through the ranks by making hard decisions under pressure. But this was beyond anything in her experience. An enemy that fed on life itself, that couldn't be fought with conventional weapons. How long do we have? She asked the communication officer. Based on the trajectory data from Horizon 7, the first harvester packs will reach our outer colonies in approximately 6 weeks. Admiral. 6 weeks to prepare for war against an enemy they didn't understand, using weapons that might not work. Elena activated the emergency protocols that would summon every available resource to Earth. Dr. Marcus Webb arrived at Defense Headquarters within 4 hours of the alert. The weapons research specialist looked like he hadn't slept in days, which was probably accurate given the urgency of the situation. I've reviewed the data from Horizon 7, Marcus said without preamble. Conventional weapons are useless against these creatures. They exist primarily as energy beings, possibly from another dimension. But Dr. Chen's discovery about emotional resistance is fascinating. Can we weaponize it? Elena asked bluntly. Marcus smiled grimly. Admiral, humans have been weaponizing emotions since we first picked up rocks to defend our caves. The question is how to focus that capability against an enemy that feeds on psychic energy. Captain Lisa Park entered the briefing room, still wearing her pilot's uniform from the emergency flight that had brought her from the Jupiter Military Academy. At 28, she was one of humanity's most talented combat pilots, known for her aggressive tactics and innovative thinking. Captain Park, Elena acknowledged, I'm putting you in charge of developing our first dedicated anti-harvester combat unit. Work with Dr. Webb to create whatever we need. Ma'am, what kind of resources are we talking about? Lisa asked. Unlimited, Elena replied. As of this morning, every human government has agreed to total military mobilization. We're converting our entire industrial capacity to war production. The first attacks. 3 weeks into the mobilization effort, the harvesters struck earlier than expected. The mining colony on Kepler 442 bits, home to 15,000 workers and their families, went silent during a routine morning communication check. General David Kim coordinated the response from the command center. his strategic mind working through the implications of the attack. The colony had minimal defenses, mostly automated systems for dealing with equipment failures. The harvesters probably encountered no resistance at all. Elena watched the tactical display showing human settlements throughout the outer colonies. Each dot represented thousands of lives, and she knew that many of those dots would disappear in the coming weeks. "General, what's the status of our evacuation efforts?" "We've managed to relocate about 30% of the frontier populations to more defensible positions," David reported. "But Admiral, we can't just keep running. At some point, we have to make a stand." The next attack came 2 days later. The agricultural world of New Eden, population 800,000, transmitted a desperate plea for help before falling silent. Long-range sensors detected the distinctive energy signatures of harvester feeding, massive drains of life force from an entire planet. But there was something different about the New Eden attack. The colony had been settled by former military personnel and their families, people who knew how to fight. The feeding process took longer, and the harvester energy signatures showed signs of instability. Dr. Marcus Webb was the first to understand the implications. "Admiral, look at these readings from New Eden. The colonists fought back, and it affected the harvester's ability to feed efficiently." Dr. Chen was right about emotional resistance, but it's more than that. Active defiance actually harms these creatures. Elena studied the data with growing excitement. "Are you saying we can hurt them just by fighting back?" "More than hurt them," Marcus replied. "I think we can kill them. But we need to focus that resistance, amplify it somehow." Captain Lisa Park had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. "What if we could build ships that actually enhance human emotional response? Not just weapons platforms, but vessels that turn human determination into a weapon." The breakthrough. Dr. Webb's weapons laboratory on Luna worked around the clock for the next 2 weeks, developing humanity's first psychic warfare systems. The breakthrough came when they discovered that certain crystalline structures could store and amplify human emotional energy. "We call them resonance crystals," Marcus explained to the assembled military leadership. "They're grown in zero gravity using a process that aligns their molecular structure with human brainwave patterns. When properly tuned, they can take a human's emotional state and broadcast it as a disruptive field." Elena examined the prototype device, a crystalline matrix about the size of her fist that pulsed with soft light. "How does it work in practice?" "The pilot or crew focuses on strong emotional memories while in contact with the crystal. Love, anger, determination, protective instincts, all of these generate energy patterns that the harvesters can't process. Instead of feeding on passive life force, they encounter active human will." Captain Lisa Park volunteered to test the first combat-equipped vessel. The ship had been built around the resonance crystal technology, with the pilot's seat directly integrated into the crystal matrix. Every system on the ship responded to the pilot's emotional state, making the vessel an extension of human will. "It feels alive," Lisa reported during her first test flight. "Like the ship is responding to what I'm thinking and feeling. When I remember why I'm fighting, the engines get more powerful. When I focus on protecting Earth, the shields get stronger." The test came sooner than anyone wanted. A Harvester scout ship appeared in the outer solar system, probing human defenses. Lisa took her prototype vessel, designated the Defiance, to intercept. The battle was unlike anything in human military history. Instead of exchanging projectiles or energy beams, it was a contest of will against hunger, determination against consumption. Lisa focused on every person she was protecting, every memory of human achievement and love, and channeled that energy through her ship's crystal matrix. The Harvester Scout, expecting easy prey, instead encountered a focused beam of pure human defiance. The creature's energy signature destabilized and collapsed, marking humanity's first confirmed kill against their new enemy. "Admiral." Lisa's voice came through the communication system, filled with exhaustion but also triumph. The bastard didn't know what hit it. These things have been feeding on passive victims for so long. They don't know how to handle active resistance. The fleet takes shape. Word of the successful engagement spread throughout human space like wildfire. Colonists who had been fleeing in panic suddenly found new hope. More importantly, volunteers flooded recruitment centers, demanding to join the fight against the harvesters. Admiral Elena Rodriguez watched the massive construction effort taking shape in Earth orbit. Hundreds of ships were being built, each one designed around the resonance crystal technology. But these weren't just weapons platforms. They were vessels that turned human emotion into a tactical advantage. The crews are self-selecting based on psychological compatibility with the crystal systems, reported Dr. Webb. People with strong protective instincts, those who've lost loved ones to the harvesters, parents defending their children. The crystals respond best to genuine emotional investment. General David Kim coordinated the strategic deployment of the new fleet. We're not just building ships, Admiral. We're creating a new kind of military unit. These crews don't just follow orders, they fight from the heart. The first major engagement came when a full harvester hunting pack attacked the industrial colony of Titan Station. Instead of fleeing, the colonists requested immediate military support, willing to fight for their home. 12 crystal-equipped ships under Captain Lisa Park's command met the harvester pack in the space around Saturn. The battle was vicious and personal, with each human crew member fighting not just for victory, but for the right of their species to exist. The harvesters, accustomed to easy feeding, found themselves facing something they had never encountered in millions of years of hunting: prey that fought back with intelligence, determination, and love for what they were protecting. When the battle ended, 7 harvester ships had been destroyed, their energy signatures scattered like digital screens across the void. The human fleet had taken casualties, but they had proven something vital. The hunters could become the hunted. The new hunters, 6 months after the first contact at Horizon 7, humanity had transformed from scattered colonists into a unified military force, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ships they built were works of art, as much as weapons of war, their crystal matrices glowing with the focused will of their crews. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching her fleet prepare for humanity's first offensive operation. Intelligence reports indicated a major harvester staging area in the Vega system, where dozens of the creatures were gathering for a massive assault on human space. Admiral, Captain Lisa Park reported from her position as Fleet Tactical Coordinator. All ships report ready for combat. Crystal matrices are fully charged and crews are focused. Elena nodded, feeling the weight of species leadership on her shoulders. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, their movements guided by the same emotional resonance that powered their weapons. They were no longer just soldiers, they were guardians of human civilization. General Kim, what's our strategic objective? David Kim smiled grimly as he reviewed the tactical data. We're not just going to destroy their staging area, Admiral. We're going to send a message that reverberates through whatever dimension these creatures call home. Humanity is no longer prey. The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, their crystal-enhanced engines carrying them toward their destiny. Behind them, Earth spun peacefully in space, protected by the knowledge that somewhere in the darkness, human beings were hunting the things that had once hunted them. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the fleet's xenobiologist, sent a final report back to Earth as they approached the Vega system. We have become what we needed to become. The harvesters taught us to fear, but fear taught us to fight. Today, we stop being victims and start being predators. The war was far from over, but humanity had found its weapon: the indomitable will to survive, to protect, and to never surrender. In the depths of space, human hearts burned brighter than stars, and that light was more than the darkness could swallow. The hunt had indeed become mutual, and humanity intended to win.